2023. The first thing we'll do is Pledge of Allegiance, so if y'all will stand, we'll do that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, before we get started, I want to do a little introduction. We are missing one board member, Chuck. I'm not sure where he is. Hopefully he'll be here within a few minutes, but I haven't heard from him. But we'll continue on and keep on trucking here. The good news is we have security, so Dale's at the back. If there's any commotion whatsoever, Dale is there. He's ready. I don't know that he's got pepper spray or anything, but he'll be able to help you if there's any need that you have. So let's go around the room, around the table there, if you will. I'm Dan Lendiger. I'm the Senior Vice President for the Board of 2022. And we'll talk a little bit more about those changes coming up, but that's who I am.
I'm Shawn Kreiderman, and I'm a brand new board member. I was elected in November, and I'm delighted to be here, and I don't think we'll need pepper spray ever.
Diane Flores, Recording Secretary.
Campbell Cheney, returning board member.
Matt Cambick, new board member.
Mark Eckert, existing board member.
Don Grimm, returning board member.
All right, thank you guys. So welcome again to the first board meeting of 2023. This is a working board meeting. This board meeting is called for by our bylaws, which require us to meet within the first 10 days of the year of seating new board members to organize the activities of each of those board members, electing officers and liaisons to committee positions. So we are fulfilling a bylaw requirement, but also kind of getting our act together in terms of leadership as well as liaison work. I did want to welcome Matt and Shawn again, their first meeting as board, and we're very happy that you volunteered to be a part of this board. So thank you all for that, and we're looking forward to working with you in the next few years. You guys are in for 3 years. Okay, we're here to elect officers of what is actually termed a corporation. So I won't go into a lot of detail about all of that, but that's the official term anyway. So the first order of business in this agenda is to elect a president for 2023 corporation, which is kind of homogeneous with the board, but is a bit different in terms of definition. But I will keep that board corporation language correct as by our CC&Rs. So anyway, is there a motion?
Me.
Yes, Shawn.
I would like to move that Dan Lendiger be elected the president of the corporation and board for HOA2 for 2023.
Thank you. Is there any other nominations? If there's no other nominations, is there any discussion? The only discussion I would give you is that I'm humbled for that. Thank you very much. I'll do my very best to help lead this board as well as represent our homeowners and our staff. There's a lot of contingent, there's a lot of stakeholders in this position, and I recognize that, and I will do the best job that I can for all of those stakeholders in 2023, so thank you very much for that. Given no more discussion, we should vote. Well, wait a minute, before we do that, is there any comments from the audience before we move on here? Do you need to second it? Sure. Matt Cambick seconds it. Good point. Any other comments? All right, hearing none, let's all vote. All in favor of Dan Lenninger for being president, raise your hand. All right, thank you very much. All right, let's move on to vice president. Is there a nomination for vice president?
Yeah, I would nominate Don as vice president for the HOA for 2023.
Thank you. Is there a second? Matt Campick seconds. Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor of Don Grimm being vice president of the board, raise your hand. All right. Motion carries. Thank you. Treasurer. Is there a nomination for treasurer?
Yes, I would like to nominate Campbell Cheney, Treasurer Supreme, for the 2023
right.
board.
Chief Money Buha. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? Hearing none, any discussion from the audience? No discussion. All in favor of Campbell being treasurer for 2023, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, Campbell. Secretary. Is there a motion for secretary?
Yes, I would move that Chuck be the secretary. You can't fight it.
I will second. You know, Chuck is not here, and I don't have a clue. Hopefully nothing negative is going on for him not being here. But I know I have talked to him as well, and he was willing to be secretary. So it's not we're not forcing something on someone that doesn't want to do it. So I will second that nomination. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, anything from the audience? Okay, all in favor of Chuck being secretary, raise your hand.
Me.
All right, thank you, it's unanimous. Thank you, Chuck. Hopefully you'll get here in just a little bit. Okay, the next two things are appointing an assistant treasurer. It's really kind of more of an appointing position for board members to have. I think it's really more of a discussion to make sure we're all okey-doke with it. I don't know that you actually have to vote on this. I just want to ask, are there members of the board that would like to be assistant treasurer for 2023 in helping Campbell? Matt would like to. Is there anybody else? Okay. If there's no other, do you have a comment, Don?
Yeah, I can't speak for him since he's not here. I've texted him. I haven't heard back from him. Don't know what the problem may be, but at one time I know Chuck was giving it consideration, and given that many of the issues we face are in the financial area and he has specific business background in it, I think he should also be considered for that position.
One thing I'd like to say about that is my preference is to have someone who will be on the board for more than 1 year. Chuck's term expires at the end of this year, as does mine. So for continuity's sake, I think the assistant treasurer, as so-called training type position, should at least have more than 1 year's tenure left.
Good point. Any other discussion? Okay, it sounds like we're going to vote on this, which makes sense with Chuck not being here. Any other discussion from the board on this?
Okay, maybe should we hold off? Maybe since Chuck's not here, and we've got two people. I don't know. Does it make sense for us to, since it's a secondary position, to hold off as opposed to actually voting? It doesn't make a big difference to me, but since he's not here, it's kind of tough to. Since he's one of the two people that expressed an interest in it.
I don't, it's unfortunate that he's not here. I think Campbell, for me, makes a good point, though, that the role of the assistant treasurer really is the potential to be treasurer. And with Chuck having just 1 more year on his term, it does kind of take that to be a bit of a short issue in that regard, so.
I make a motion that Matt Cambic be the Assistant Treasurer for 2023.
Any second? Campbell seconds? Okay. Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Okay, motion's on the table that Matt Cambic be Assistant Treasurer for 2023. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. All right, thank you. It's too bad Chuck isn't here, it really is. But next would be Appoint Committee Liaisons. Now, we've talked about this quite a bit, and we probably have some room for more discussion. But let me just go through the list, and this is really more of an open discussion than anything with regard to these positions. Committee liaisons are very important to the board. Committees are very important to the board. They're a chance for homeowners to have opinions, to volunteer for things that they're interested in, and the board is very thankful to have committees supporting the board in the work that we do here, and staff as well. So committees are of great value to the HOA. Each committee has a liaison to the board as a board member. One committee, the ALC committee, actually the board member is the chair by CC&R rules. So they have varying interests, they have varying inputs, but they bring, the liaisons bring back information about what the committees are doing and help the board understand the dynamics of the activities of those committees. So these are very important positions. Typically, we always have a primary liaison and we have a secondary liaison. Secondary liaison doesn't necessarily have to show up at all the meetings, but does need to be informed of what the committee activity is. So in the event that the primary liaison is not here, that person can take over, and it's kind of a seamless transition in that regard. So we'll talk about each one of these committees in terms of the interest of a board member and acting as that liaison, primary liaison position. Does that make sense? Anybody got any comments to all this? Okay. The first is golf that I have on my list, so we'll go through golf. Last year, Mark, you were the golf liaison. I assume, I haven't heard differently, but I assume you're still interested in that position? Sure. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? You have to do a vote? Nope.
No.
So it's, I assume, we're going to go through a unanimous approval of Mark being the golf liaison. Okay? Next is Club Life. Club Life is a new position. It's really not a committee, as you can imagine, but the board last year in 2022, we signed a contract with Club Life, now invited. We felt that it was important that there be a board liaison to that vendor, if you will, or that very important part of our HOA and the management of our golf courses. At that point in time, Don Grimm said that he would do it, and he's been doing it since August 1 when that contract took place. I was his backup last year, so the two of us kind of worked with, invited through this first 6-month timeline, and it's worked quite well. We tend to push all of our communications that we have with Club Life or invited through Don, so he coordinates that activity and then brings us back updates from invited for the board. So that's really the responsibility of that job. Don, you did that in the past. Are you still willing to do that?
I think it would be beneficial since we're still early in the process with this vendor who may be not to do it.
Okay, good. Any other suggestions, discussions?
Yeah, I was interested in that, Dan, but I'm willing to be
the alternate, if that works. Okay, all right. Well, let's do the primary first. So, no more discussion with regard to that. Sounds like we're unanimous on Don being the primary for club-wide. Any conversation from the audience? Yes. I understand. Good question. I tell you what, we're kind of in the middle of this anointing people for the primary role and responsibility. Once we're done and we have an opportunity for comment, then please come down and ask those questions, because they're good questions and we'd like to hear from you in that regard. But at this point in time, I think we'll keep it to the liaison or United or Florida. No problem. So at the end, come on down, ask the question. So all in favor, raise your hand. All right. Next is rules and regs. Once again, Don, you were rules and regs. Are you interested in doing the same job again?
Yeah, that would be fine. It's not as time consuming as some of the I'm sorry. Yes, that would be fine. It's not as time-consuming an assignment as some of the others, and should be able to maintain that.
Okay. Any other folks interested in rules and regs? Okay, hearing none, I'll assume that's a unanimous vote. Any comment from the audience on rules and regs? Okay, ALC. I was the ALC liaison for 2022, and in fact enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't see myself doing that this year with the responsibility of being president, so it really is open for consideration. I don't really know. Let me just ask, is there someone interested in the
I'd be happy to be the ALC primary liaison, and I'll be happy to be the backup on rules and regulations.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm hesitant here to go further on the ALC without Chuck being here, because he was my backup in 2022, and I honestly haven't talked to him about it, so we may kind of have to, if it's okay, just kind of wait on ALC for a little bit of time to confirm with him what his opinions are, and then we can talk about it from there. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. I hate that, because I had not had a conversation with him about it, so I hate to kind of go further without him having a voice in this conversation. Fitness, Mark, you were the fitness and fitness, wellness, and recreation liaison. Are you willing to do that again?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else interested?
Yeah.
These mics aren't working, huh?
No, it's on.
It's on, now it's working, okay. Yes, I'd be willing to do it again. I think the continuity, I think, in that committee also is pretty important with all the things that are going on, so.
Thank you. Anyone else interested in fitness, wellness, and recreation? Hearing none, any conversation from the board? Anything from the audience? Hearing none, congratulations, Mark. You are the fitness, wellness, and recreation liaison. Finance. Now, this is going to be a hard one, I think. Is there anyone interested in being the finance? Well, thank you very much.
It's a natural transition.
Thank you. Is there anyone else interested in that job?
Usually the assistant treasurer is the backup.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, conversation from the board. Big job. Thank you, Campbell, for doing that. Any conversation from the audience? Hearing none, I think it's unanimous. Campbell, thank you. Okay, strat plan. This year, we had a strategic planning committee and task force started last year. Joanne was responsible for that. Unfortunately, Joe left us, I can't remember, I think it was like May 1 or June 1 or something. Moved out of town. So that whole process really came to a screeching halt. We want to revitalize it, start it all over again, and get going with a strategic planning group, whether it's a task force or a committee at the point in time, I can't really tell you that. But it is a starting point again to get on with having that as a full regular function of this board. So having said all that, is there anyone interested in doing that? Thank you, Matt. Hold on a second. Is there anyone else? Any discussion that we have other than good luck?
No, I think it's important. I think Matt would do a good job there. And just to kind of clarify for everybody, so the strat plan works with what we would consider capital improvement investments, things that don't exist today in the HOA, but need to possibly be done someday in the future, or major changes in the future. I think once in a while there's some confusion with regard to that relative to the reserve studies, which are the obligation of the board to keep up our present amenities. And I know there has been some confusion sometimes with some of the residents between those two things. So it's probably a good thing to make sure we understand that it's got nothing to do with keeping up our existing facilities at all. That's the reserve, that's the obligation of the board. It's got to do with long-term planning on new things. So.
Good. Thank you, Mark. Any other discussion? I will say that I'm happy Matt raised his hand for this. Matt did an awful lot of work with the golf committee in 2021 and 2022, developing some strategic direction, if you will, for our golf course. So this is not new for him, and he has produced some very valuable work in this regard. So I really appreciate you raising your hand for this. There are people that may want to do some research, but there were things underway in 2022 for Joe West, and I think there were some people that he had contacted and such, so we'll have to review all of that and make sure we stay in touch with those that have volunteered to be a part of this process. So try to make all fill out that work. No comments from the audience. Hearing none, Matt, congratulations. Thank you very much for raising your hand on that. Saddlebrook Public Affairs Commission. Saddlebrook Public Affairs Commission. Hopefully you know this organization. It is independent of the two HOAs, but fully vested, if you will, by the two HOAs. Each HOA1 and HOA2 each have a liaison to the Saddlebrook Public Affairs group. So this position is our liaison and supporting that group as they do good work for the homeowners of Saddlebrook. And then they really do. They put on some great presentations, things that are very good interest for all of us as homeowners. The only thing I'll tell you, Chuck is not here again, but of course, he was the liaison in 2022 and enjoyed it. He enjoyed getting to know that crowd and they him, and he had suggested that he would like to do it again this year. So is there anyone else interested in that position? Hearing none, any comments from the audience? Hearing none, and it's obviously unanimous that Chuck can continue on that with our thanks, because it's a good group. It does take some time. Communications is here. We really don't have a committee for communications. It really was the intent last year to develop a plan for communications. And what it ended up being was we did develop as a board a plan of controlling communications to make sure we could keep records of communications we receive from homeowners and know that we are responding to those communications in a timely fashion. And Chuck did a good job of putting that together. So I'm sure he will want to continue that. It's not hard work, but at least it is a good record of homeowner communications with the board, and we then can rely on that if something in the future comes up about the same subject or things of that sort. So he did a good job in that regard. So I'm going to suggest that we leave his name here. On the other hand, I think there could be work that we can talk about, and maybe we'll do it at our next meeting, about a communications committee or strategic plan in a broader sense for the board as it communicates to homeowners. We talked about the activities that we had worked on in 2022 was more about making sure we understood what came into the board. I think we really need to focus a little bit harder on what goes out from the board in terms of communications from this body as well as staff. So that's something we can deal with. I don't want to put it on this agenda right now because we haven't really, we can think a little bit harder about that. Does that make sense?
That's okay. No. It makes sense, but I'm looking at my chart here, and, when people don't come to a meeting, they give you a lot of stuff. You've given Chuck 3 major primary roles, and that's fine, but I don't think that's fair. I don't know how I can do justice to the three roles. You gave him ALC and the Saddlebrook Committee of Public Affairs and Communications.
Yeah, the ALC, let me back up on the ALC. That's not, at this moment in time, not Chuck. I just wanted to make sure he knew he had a voice in, did he want it or not, and then we could talk about between you and him.
Okay.
I don't think, honestly, I don't think he wants to be the chair of the liaison for ALC.
Okay, I didn't understand that. Okay, because I'm happy to just do one little job. That would be fine by me.
Sure, no, I get it.
No.
And maybe you'll get it as well.
Okay. I didn't get it. Sorry.
Okay, so I think we're in good shape. The seconds, again, we don't have Chuck here. The only second that we talked about was for Club Life, and Matt, you had volunteered to be a second for that. I guess we can talk about it. I was kind of thinking seconds, we need to have a little more conversation, but Don, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, when it was set up, it was set up to be as we have currently operated, and I would simply point out if we're going to add additional people to that, it should, in my opinion, come via motion and vote. To do that, it is the main thing we don't want to do, in my opinion, is create multiple channels of people communicating. It's difficult as a vendor to be getting multiple channels. So if we decide that it takes 2 people to do the job, then that's fine, but I think that's a decision of the board in total and not just an appointment.
Okay. Given that, why don't we just set this aside a bit and we'll come back to it. We'll probably have a meeting at the end of this month, an open call meeting, that we can come back to that question at that point in time.
I have a point of order, or I guess. Should we have a liaison to the unit rep council? I would like to volunteer for that if there's...
There's no reason not to. I'm open for conversation, but I'm very happy that you actually brought that up. It's an error on my part to have it on this list, but the unit reps are no longer a standing committee, but they're an advisory group, and they do need to have support. I know, Walter, you visit with them each month, and there is no reason to not have a liaison from the board to that group. Now, I think Chuck had been doing that, but again, that's another big, long list for him to do. Don, did you have a comment?
I was just trying to get clear understanding. Is the unit rep a committee or an ad hoc council?
Yeah, it's ad hoc council. It's a,
Okay, so it's not the same status as a
No.
committee as far as reporting to the board and all of that. Okay.
I don't think we stopped the liaison part. That happened mid-year last year, and I don't think we just eliminated liaison. So honestly, if you're interested in doing it, Campbell.
I am interested in doing it.
Matt?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. What was the reason for downgrading the unit rep committee to a council?
You know, it's too bad, obviously Teresa's not here to be able to tell you, but, and Chuck as well, he was the second liaison. I think there was an opinion that communication from the board, which was always kind of a hallmark of the unit rep group, is to communicate to homeowners of what is going on, either in the HOA or with the board, with the staff. And that has improved dramatically over the last few years, that most people now get their information kind of directly from the horse's mouth, if you will. So there was an opinion that really most of the activity that unit reps were doing was really more on a more social level. And I know they did a lot more work, and I'm probably not doing a good job here of explaining it. But there was lots of discussion, and I'm happy to look into that for you. I'm probably not doing a good job of maybe answering the question for you, but there was a lot of discussion about that. And we kind of go back into our records, and I can answer that for you after the meeting. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Because I wasn't a part of it. We were part of it because we were the board, but there were two main people that were part of that whole discussion. I'll tell you what, we'll wait till at the end, if that's okay. I don't mean to cut you off, but we've got some other stuff to do here. We kind of good? Thank you all for your volunteering and your support. On some of the seconds, like I said, we'll work on those probably in the next couple of weeks. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about, if we could, is a board meeting schedule for 2023. We are required by rule to have at least one open board meeting during the year outside of this particular meeting. And we obviously want more than that. I think homeowners certainly want more than that. They want a level of transparency that we want to abide by as well. So it is my opinion, and I'd like to give discussion for this, that we move open meetings to once a month, starting this month, which would be the end of January. We would do these meetings the last Wednesday of the month, giving us plenty of time for some financial information to be able to be presented, and have a regular open board meeting with updates from Walter, updates financially, and we'll have a variety of topics associated to projects that might be going on or work going on within the HOA. So anyway, that's on the table. I'd like to have some feedback from board members on what you think.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, I think we've kind of discussed that. I think, one of the challenges of being on the board is doing business by email, and it is very difficult, very time-consuming. I think all of us experienced that this last year, the amount of personal time that's required sitting in front of a computer at home. And I think a feeling is not only will a monthly board meeting be certainly more productive in being able to face each other and talk, But it's also probably better for the residents to have you more of a chance instead of just once a quarter, once every 4 months. So I think it would be a good thing to do, to certainly be more efficient as a board and probably more open for the residents.
Anybody else? Got an opinion? I think we'll hold this, well, if anybody in the audience has an opinion, you can come up and make it so known. Are you coming up, Pat? All right. Looking forward to it.
Is it on?
Yeah.
As the former chairperson and budget person last year, I look at your date of November 15th. Club Life is not required by contract to present any numbers until exactly 15 days before that. I think we need to consider whether the budget can be consolidated in that 2 weeks. You may need to change that date. The contract, and I've read it, says they have 90 days before the end of the year to present that budget. So that's a concern I have going forward. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Pat. Any other comments? Okay. I think we should vote on this just for fun. I would make a motion that we go to this schedule for our open board meetings, and I have it at 2 o'clock. I don't know if you want 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I guess that's something we could define. We also have it here at Desert View. Desert View does have a very good recording system, and it's much easier on staff to set up the room for us. It's not quite as cozy, I think, as what the board would like. So I'll leave that a bit up in the air as well for us to make the change. But I think the most important part is that we can formally announce to homeowners that we will have a regularly scheduled board meeting once a month. And if something comes up and something's weird, we have to cancel one, that's okay. But I think they should know that they can count on us for a board meeting on those particular days. So I'll make a motion that we use this agenda or this calendar for our board meetings for 2023. Do I have a second? Second. Matt seconds. Any discussion at all?
Yeah, Dan, we talked when you and I, when we were chatting about this, and you said something about, and I couldn't hear what Patty said, but something about that maybe the December meeting might have to be changed in order to facilitate something. And so I think we should say that this is a tentative schedule, so the residents know, and we know, reserving the right that if we have to change it to make more sense, especially with financials, that we're able to do that.
I agree, totally agree. The December, Pat, were you specific to December? Was that a November? Yeah, you know, I looked at the calendar, and you could be very right. I was kind of basing that more on holiday time than I was thinking about. But the November one, we had a November 18th meeting this year, no, 2022, I'm sorry, to approve the budget. That was November 18th, so I assume November 15th we'll be doing the same thing. But, you know, Campbell, I'll let that be your, you know, this calendar isn't perfect for those 2 last months. We can amend
Well,
that.
Pat's right, but we can push on Club Life Invite to give us numbers sooner than the contracted date.
Plus, this is really a meeting for our regular meetings, like working meetings. This has nothing to do with the schedule for a budget standpoint. I mean, we haven't even looked at how we might change the budget process. And it's true that, you know, maybe 1 or 2 of these dates might get altered a little bit later in the year as we finalize the plan for the budget. So this, right now, these meetings have absolutely nothing to do with a budget per se. It's just regular monthly meeting to talk about stuff that's going on. You know, it's not a specific agenda meeting,
Sure.
so to speak.
Okay. All good. Makes sense. We're flexible. Thank you, Pat, for that comment. Any other comments? Okay. Hearing none, let's have a quick vote that we move forward with this timeline and if we have to make some minor changes along the way, we certainly will. All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you all very much. Diane, I'll get with you so we can start to get this published. And by the way, I do see some committee chairs here. Thank you all for coming. I'll remind you that we need to get your 2023 meeting schedule in hand so we can get this posted for homeowners to know when all these meetings are taking place. So we'll look forward to that. All right. Thank you very much.
Do you want to talk about board coffee and that stuff or not?
I do. The one that was not on the, we can go back to the, Joey, go back to the agenda if you can. The one thing I didn't put on there, and that was committee chairs meeting. I do want to talk about that right now if I can, because we just talked about our open board meeting. There was a discussion, and I think we should have it, about moving the committee chairs meetings from the first Wednesday of the month at 9 o'clock. And this is a good meeting. It's open to homeowners, but it's when all the chairs come together and the board members come together, along with Walter and Ray is there, and we talk about what's going on, and we get an update from each committee, and they get an update from the board as well as staff. So it's really a good meeting. We do it once a month. It's been going on for probably a long time. We've got a lot of meetings going on in our agenda here in our calendar, so we were talking about maybe we could do some consolidations. And the thought had been that we would do the committee chair meeting the same day as the board meeting. So that the calendar that we put up before last Wednesday of the month, instead of the first Wednesday, would become the last Wednesday for the committee chairs meeting, and that would be at 9 o'clock. We did kind of broach that subject with them on the recent meeting last week, and nobody had a lot of heartburn about it. But I did want the board to talk about it, just to make sure we're comfortable. And if we're not, we'll keep on going with the first Wednesday. But it would allow us to block off one Wednesday instead of kind of 2 Wednesdays of the month to have these kind of meetings, which are important meetings, certainly. So I'll open it up for conversation.
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about it. We talked about it at length at the committee chair meeting, and everybody seemed to understand the logic of it and everything. Nobody had any, like you said, any heartburn with it. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It certainly make our personal lives a little easier, and at least if we're going to kill a day, at least we only kill 1 day and not 2 days. So didn't seem like there was any negatives to it. So.
Well, here's a welcome guest. I hope we were all hoping you're okay.
Here, Chuck.
Just can't believe what we signed you up for.
Yep. This is the guy that's got 3 liaison jobs and 4 sub-liaison jobs. Welcome. Chuck Kill, by the way. Say hello.
Hello, everyone. Standing room only, I guess, huh?
Okay, sorry, we're back on committee chairs discussion. So, Mark, you had noted that you were in favor of going to a single day for committee chairs and board meeting. Any other discussions in that regard? Anybody else want to? Don, what do you think? Do you have
I'm ambivalent as to which day we may have it. I would simply be an advocate of doing as many of these types of things in a singular day so that we can plan and commit a day rather than one meeting every day that happens in the middle of the day and then just kind of ruins your ability to play around a golf or whatever else you may be doing. So I think if we could bear that in mind, it might be helpful.
Good, thanks. Anybody else? All right, I don't think this requires a vote. Sounds like we're all in agreement. We will, Diane, change the committee chair meeting to the last 9 o'clock a.m., just like before, same room, and change it to the last Wednesday of the month along with the board Chuck, do we need to come back to you? I think we do need to come back to you. We did a lot of work prior to you getting here. We made you secretary without you being here. I hope that's okay. I thought I had heard you say you were willing to do that again. Okay, good. The one thing that was left in the year, and I think we'll talk about it, is the ALC primary liaison. Sean had raised her hand, being willing to do that position, but we kind of wanted to make sure you were given an offering as well, or you would comment on it. So it's up to you. Are you interested in the primary, or you want to stay secretary, or what's your comment?
He was talking to you. No, he was talking to you. He wants to know if you're going to be on the ALC primary liaison.
Not especially.
What'd you say?
No.
Good, I will.
Okay.
There we go. I'll be the primary. No, I thought you weren't paying attention. I was saying, come on, Chuck.
I heard Sean.
You heard Sean. Okay, so I'd be happy to be the primary ALC liaison.
Great. Okay, we can put Sean's name on ALC. That's super. Chuck, are you interested in continuing to be second for ALC? Okay. That's a good segue. Chuck's been at every meeting. He's a good support for that group. So, all right. Okay, let's finish business. What else? There's something else that Chuck was doing.
He was doing the SBPCA and the communications.
That's right. So you're going to hold on to communications as well with regard to recording the incoming information and messaging from residents and the outgoing from.
Okay.
Right. So he's got control of that. We talked a little bit about maybe doing a little bit more with communications with a different outflow kind of mindset, so we can talk about that a little bit later. Okay, good.
Assistant Treasurer.
Yes.
Assistant Treasurer.
Assistant treasurer was the other one that we didn't want to make any kind of decision on because
We made a vote.
Don thought Chuck was interested, so.
There you go. Thank you very much. Thanks.
We took a vote. I made a motion, we took a vote, we voted on it.
Oh, that's right, we did. That's right. That vote took place. Matt's the assistant treasurer.
But I would like to see Chuck as the second for the Strategic Planning Committee. It's all right with him.
For the second of what?
Strategic Planning.
Okay.
So are you interested in being the second for strategic planning? Yes? Okay. Any discussion about that? All right. So be it. Thank you, Chuck, for volunteering. All right, I think we've got most of those completed, maybe one or two here we're going to deal with a little bit more, but right now I think the major liaisons are taken care of. So thank you all very much for volunteering important stuff. On the agenda we have two minutes of meetings that we need to approve. Both occurred on November the 18th. And hopefully you have those or have read those. So I need a motion to approve the November 18th minutes of the 10 o'clock meeting. There were actually two meetings that day. The 10 o'clock. The 10 o'clock meeting, and that was the broader, bigger meeting that we actually went through and voted on a budget. So I need a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second? All right. Any discussion? Any discussion from the floor? All in favor, raise your hand. All right. Then there was a second meeting on that same day at 11 o'clock, 11:36 by the way, and that was to approve basically the $5 million loan for the Mountain View Golf Course renovation project. And that was a singular meeting just for that topic. Is there a motion to approve that?
Yeah, it was a $6 million loan, actually, but yes, I'd make a motion to approve it.
Thank you. Second? Second. All right. Any discussion? Discussion from the audience? There was a second meeting on November 18th. After the first meeting adjourned, the second meeting was brought to order, and that meeting was a singular topic meeting, which was the approval of a $6 million loan or the approval of the process to get a loan for $6 million to renovate the Mountain View Golf Course. And that was the only topic of that meeting.
And just to note, that was really because of a requirement of our loan company, that they wanted that specific, even though we'd already approved it in a previous meeting, they wanted to have a second separate meeting that was unique to that, as I recall, Campbell. And that was really the reason for it. It was to satisfy their requirements for the loan paperwork.
Right. Okay, so having heard all the discussions, no more discussion from the board. All in favor say, raise your hand. Aye. Raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. We had a few unanimous written consents that took place in the month of December. And these are decisions that the board makes without the benefit of an open meeting, but needed to be made on a somewhat timely basis. And this is a way that takes place. So there's a motion to make a vote, and the board then has a unanimous consent that we all sign. So we need to review those. Chuck, do you have those that we did in the month of December?
Yeah, we had 4 written consents, unanimous written consents. One was for the code of conduct, a new code of conduct that we passed. One was for the new pickleball rules, which went into effect in January. One was for the pickleball agreement. We can't terminate that because we made them an amenity. And the last one was the new finance chair.
Dale Lehman.
Dale Lehman.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? We've already seen it and done it, so it's behind us, but we want to make homeowners aware and make it part of our agenda to make sure that you knew that there were decisions made prior to this open meeting. Okay, we're moving on here. The last thing that is on the agenda that I have, and then we might have some more topics, but the last thing was to talk a little bit about board goals for 2023. And what I thought, Joey, there you go. I thought we'd first just kind of talk about the goals that we had from 2021, 2022, I'm sorry, and review those quickly with you. I will tell you that the board goals for 2023 are not complete yet. I hope that when we have our meeting in January, on January 25th, we will be able to talk with you about those board goals, because they're important that they get used within not only the committees but also by the staff. So we will have more discussion about 2023 upcoming. We're still kind of trying to get our act together, and I think we'll be voting on those goals at the 25th meeting of January. These are goals for 2022. You know, they're pretty, you can read through them, we can talk about them. Revise the annual budget development policy, that was done. I can't speak to it in as much detail as others that are here, but I will tell you that was completed. Develop a board member communication protocol. We talked about that today with regard to Chuck, what he does in terms of how we respond to homeowners' comments coming from homeowners and other places, so we keep track of that, and we have a protocol in terms of the timing that needs to have those comments, someone make comments back to homeowners. So that was completed. If you guys have comments along the way here, I don't need to be the only student speaking, but explore and possibly develop a credit card service fee policy. Campbell, you want to comment on that? You've kind of been in the middle of some of that.
Yeah, the Finance Committee did some research on that, and first determining what's a convenience fee versus what's a surcharge fee, we did that.
Can you speak up a little bit?
We're also getting into now, I think this is going to carry into 2023, the TEI software conversion supposedly has a bolt-on program where you can start having a surcharge for credit card fees, but that has not been instituted yet. So we're still looking into it.
Okay, so that wasn't completed, but it's still ongoing, so it's not going away. There's activity associated to it. Establish strategic planning task force, we talked about that as well. Earlier when we were talking about Matt and his liaison work for that. So I won't go into much detail. Obviously, we didn't complete that as we had hoped. Ensure license agreements are up to date and in compliance with our CCNRs. If you want to comment on that?
Yeah, that's something I started on early in the year, kind of got put to the side a little bit because of all the other things that happened during the year, but I'm getting back into it now. Basically, this is just to clean up a lot of inconsistencies in the two documents that kind of govern the definition of all of our clubs. They really needed some work, and so we're pretty far along with that. I'm hoping in the next few weeks I'll have it to the point where I can present it to the committee and have the committee review it, and then of course present it to the board. It just is to clean up things that didn't make any sense, and multiple things stating different things in two different documents and stuff like that. So, and then also the other part of that is trying to finally get real final answers on the legalities that we need from liability standpoint on specifically the clubs that have some potential hazards, and we have probably about 10 clubs where people could get hurt or injured, and that's really never been worked on, and we need to have the HOA to be protected at least from that standpoint as far as whether we have to have members sign a document and that type of thing. So that's all wrapped up into that work.
Thank you. Any other comments associated to that? It's kind of for the audience, license agreements sound kind of like a weird thing for an HOA to have, but we do have a lot of clubs, pickleball being one, softball being another, and others, that use facilities that we own pretty exclusively. And those license agreements allow us, to a certain degree, a contractual agreement between those clubs as to what's expected from things like maintenance all the way to allowing non-members of that club to use the facility because it is our facility. Homeowners pay for that. So there's a lot that goes into these license agreements, and they are very important for us to maintain. So everybody's kind of on the same page. So that's what license agreements are all about. So would you say you're 80%, 90% done?
Yeah, I would say I'm probably 80 to 90% done. I've got one document that I've had to set aside for a number of months, and I'm just getting back into it now. The other document's done. And again, we'll review it then with the committee and with the staff that basically manages it. And so I think we're pretty close. And I'm just waiting for a last email back from our lawyer on just some final answers on two questions I had about the liability part of it. And so yeah, I think we're real close.
Cool. Thank you. Any other comments from the board? The last oversee Mountain View Golf Course renovation contract award process, that other than obviously starting the work, that front end portion has been done, and I think very successfully. We had multiple bidders. We did a lot of due diligence on those bidders. They came in at reasonable cost, but we think we've gotten a contract with a contractor that's well capable of doing exactly what we need. We've got a lot of oversight on this project. The architect, as well as invited, are helping us, and Paul here are watching over this project like hawks. So I think we as homeowners should be satisfied that, at least at this point in time, we are in good shape. So I feel that we're comfortable with having succeeded in that goal for 2022 at this point in time. Again, you guys want to talk about 2023 or kind of hold it in advance maybe for our meeting on the 25th of January? Yeah, okay. No comments associated with anything else?
Dan, what happens to the goals from 2022? For example, Mark, with his license agreements up to date, says about 3/4 or 80% done. What happens to that? It just gets finished, or it doesn't get reported on? Does it go on to the next year to be a semi-goal for us to finish?
Well, I think that's up to us. So I don't want to be the guy that says it.
We had a 23, that'll be a goal for 23.
We can continue.
Well, I'm looking at this, and number one, revise the annual budget development policy. That's done, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then number two is about 1/3 of the way done. Number three is about 1/4 of the way done, considering what Campbell said. And then we did nothing about the strategic plan for, so that definitely needs to go on 2023. And then ensure is like 80% done, and 6 is done. So do we take the goals? Because obviously you all thought they were good goals. I don't think they should just be thrown away. My 2 cents.
Well, I don't think any of them are being not finished. Actually, number 2 was finished, because the number 2 goal that we had at the time was simply to address the fact that we had a lot of homeowners who were saying that they would send emails or communications into the board and they'd never hear back. And we had no system to track that.
Yep.
And that's really what number 2 was to track
Okay,
that. And
so
that's been in existence all year.
So number 2 is completed?
Number 2 was completed early at the beginning of the year. That's
All right.
that spreadsheet that you get from Chuck every couple weeks that lists all the communication.
Okay. But still, 3, 4, and 5, we're not looking at this list.
Yeah, 3 is tied to our new software, which, as you probably know, didn't go exactly
Right,
the way
but
we
I'm just-
thought.
I just want to try to get some handle on, before we start talking about our goals, what was done for what we're going to do with the ones that weren't completed for last year.
I think it's a really good question. Why don't we consider, and we can think about this for the January 25th meeting, maybe using these extra goals as addendums to the 2023 goals for completion. So we have 2023 goals potentially, and then these would be add-ons to get completed from 2022, so we don't forget them. That's really what you're saying.
Okay.
Right? Absolutely.
All right.
I think that's a good comment. I think that's all good. Does that make sense to everybody?
Thank you.
To kind of not lose them in the weeds here.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just was questioning, aren't 3 and 4 the only 2 things on there that still have work required? But I mean, that's,
3, 4, and 5.
whether we write that down or not, you're going to complete it, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the credit card service thing is tied to another issue that is much larger than that one.
Right, that's still going to be an issue in 2023. We're still looking at instituting a surcharge. For those who don't understand it, we lose over $100,000 a year in surcharge fees. People use their credit cards. We get charged a surcharge there from 3.5% to 5%, depending on the affinity of the card you use. We're looking to no longer subsidize that, and for those who want to use credit cards, you're certainly more than able to do that and get your points or your miles or whatever the affinity you have, but we're no longer going to the idea is we're no longer going to subsidize that. So we're kind of we want you to use your membership cards, which doesn't have a surcharge to it.
Period.
But Campbell, would I be corrected that everything is basically done except for how we tie the software into making it work?
No, I wish that were so. It's not
Pardon?
that. I wish that were so. No, it's not that
Okay.
way yet. We're still waiting for the TEI system to get up and running, and then on top of that, I understand there is a bolt-on software that we can buy, and then we can start experimenting with the surcharge.
Yeah, I think it's on its way, but it's not there at this point in time. But good, okay. We'll use these as addendums then to 2023. Good suggestion.
Dan, one last thing. I know it was really late, but I know I sent a request in for 2 of my clubs to add some new people. We were going to do a unanimous written consent. I don't know if you want to do a formal vote for those 4 people now. You want to just do it to UWC and sign it over at the office. It doesn't really make any difference. I think everybody kind of agreed for the 4 names, 3 from Fitness Wellness and 1 from the Golf Committee.
Well, okay.
So,
Why don't we just do it formally? Like, why don't you make a motion, use their name, we'll do a second, talk about it. Are you prepared for that?
I hope so. I think I brought the sheet.
So we'll just do it as a formal vote.
Because we all said
That's all
yes.
good.
One's Lynn Moreno.
Yeah, I didn't bring my fitness wellness folder. I brought my board folder, so I don't have the names that are in the email. But again, we can do a UWC. We don't have to vote for it. I mean, if everybody's okay, we can just get it verbally approved and then just sign it over the next day or so in the office. Let's just do that.
That's fine.
Because I forgot the names.
And we'll report that at the 25th meeting that we did that. All right. Any more discussion? We're kind of at the end of our agenda. Thought it worked out pretty good. No more discussion? Nobody have any other points that they want to talk about with the board? Got a joke? Guess not. Okay, well, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Anybody want to do that?
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
All in favor? All right, meeting is adjourned. And now, after the meeting is adjourned, we can look at the components. If you'd like to come down and ask a question, just give us your name and your lot number, unit, lot number. There's typically a 2-minute restriction on that question time, and try to state a singular topic if you can. So, anyway, yes, sir.
Hi.
Hi.
Name is John Sohikian, new to the community. Beautiful place to live. Unit 45. I have a number of...
Right into the mic.
Oh, sorry. I have a number of issues, and you said only one. So these are just observations as a new member to the community, and you can take them as you wish. On this whole golf thing, I've been told that 1/3 of the community plays golf. So I was wondering if the board had considered raising the cost of the tee times so that would offset some of the costs in terms of assessing the community. Would love to see more bike lanes, and I question this end of safety corridor. I don't know what that really means. That means that you can no longer be safe after you leave the corridor. That's just kind of a strange observation. Clubhouse out here could use as resurfacing, because if you're riding a bike on it and it doesn't have a bike lane, you get jarred by the expansion joints that are at least 6 inches wide. Never told by Robeson that we had 2 HOAs, so the whole thing seems awfully confusing to a new resident because it just seems wasteful. As a former CIO and an executive for major corporations, I can't see why that makes any sense, but I'll let all you guys figure that out. Could use some EV chargers in the community. There are none for the fact that we are going EV. Your talk about the charging a credit card, most clubs that I've ever been in before, what they do is they take a card on file, you go to a restaurant, you give them your number, and your card is charged. So to have a separate billing system to then charge us all is just, in my opinion, a wasteful use of money. And then the other thing on this probably is for the ACL committee, there really should be two regulations in terms of timing, because if you're putting a pool and spa in, it's very difficult to get your landscaping done within 90 days, because it takes 90 days to put the pool in. So when I'm told that I need to put gravel down just so I meet the requirements and pay a landscaper over $11,000 to put gravel down that's going to be rolled over by bobcats as they dig the pool and throw the dirt on top of the gravel, is not, in my opinion, appropriate. So I just feel that there's no flexibility, and yes, you can, keep writing and getting extensions, but it really should, there should be some consideration in terms of what you are actually doing and the length of time that's going to take. Plus, many of the landscapers in this area are already backed up, and they're not going to get to you as soon as you move in. So just, like I said, these are just general observations from someone that just moved in 6 weeks ago. And, I hope they're helpful for you to consider, because I think sometimes when you're in something a long time, you don't see what other people see when they first move in. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
John, thank you. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
Welcome to Saddlebrook. The only thing I will share with you in your comment about the permitting from ALC, the ALC committee is thinking through that very issue, so that is a topic that they've been talking about. The rest of the stuff we'll certainly consider.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Just, like I said, just observations from someone who's brand new, and you see things and you say, wait a minute, that, especially like the 1 and the 2 thing doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, one has rules that you can, come from the outside and dine in HOA2, but you can't dine in HOA1, or you can't play golf there. And so anyway, and then I also, like I said, the whole thing about, this is a community built around golf, but I think it's also appropriate to realize not everyone here is playing golf, and that for all of us to pay for things that are for the course, having other people who are using those facilities pay a larger share would be more appropriate to offset some of the costs in assessments that we'll get in the future.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Maureen Spence, Unit 28, Maureen Spence, Unit 28, Lot 50. I just have a question for the board. I'm the volunteer coordinator that plans the volunteer appreciation luncheon, and I just need to know which board member do I talk to when I have questions. And I thought it's not a standing committee, but I need to know which one of you to call.
I don't know.
What's
Call
volunteer
Roger.
appreciation for who, Maureen?
It's for our volunteers.
For all the volunteers?
Right. Last year, I think I sent notices out to about 500, and I think close to 200 came to the luncheon. And I just need to know, and I thought while you're all together, who do I talk to?
I'm happy to work with you. I can take it
Sean.
back to the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming down. Yes, sir.
Cash Stripling, Unit 33. We have a lot of cost, and strategically, I think we're making it, I've heard now for at least 4, maybe 5 or longer months about this new software. I'm the unit rep for 33, so I've heard it a lot longer than the normal residents. We have paid them a great deal of money. We are paying them every month. But I just had dinner at the club, and it still ain't working. So strategically, the policy y'all need to provide to the general manager is don't pay if it doesn't work. So this paying them several $1,000s a month for software, we haven't had a budget printout since
November.
October. So we don't have November, December. We can't order off the tablets in the club, and the list goes on and on. Y'all need to tell the leadership that pays the bill to stop paying the bill, and I bet if we don't pay them for a number of months, they might actually fix some of this, because they've got zero incentive to fix it now.
Brinko.
I have a second question I'll wait my turn for.
Thank you, Cash. I appreciate your comments. Certainly this whole implementation issue is a bit of a struggle at this point in time. The board's well aware, staff is as well, but I do appreciate your comments. We will certainly be thinking of those. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to add something to the thing on TEI there. Yes, where's the gentleman that asked the question?
Right here.
Right there, right in front of me. Yes, there are some significant issues and problems with the TEI software and its implementation. That's a fact. We have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with staff to identify everything, find out what resources are needed and how we bring this to a conclusion, hopefully. I wish it were as simple as simply saying we aren't going to pay you, but what would happen in that case is you won't have any software.
We don't have it now.
I know. Well, we've got some things that do work, but some major things aren't. Under contract with a vendor, he would simply pull everything, bring it to a halt, and then you'd be in court. We're going to try to avoid all of that and see if we can't resolve this without going that route.
Well, how about a name, address, and phone number, and me and my bunch of ruly friends will start calling and say, why are you not servicing our community? Because I'm going to tell you, I did business for the Army and I did business for Boeing, and we didn't pay vendors that didn't produce, and they're not producing.
The Army and Boeing had a lot more leverage, sir, than we have.
You got more leverage than our lawyer? And
Yes.
we have a full-time lawyer that could send a letter, which I bet hasn't been sent.
No, you're correct. We're not at that step yet. We're trying to take it in stages. We're well aware of the magnitude of the problem. We are as concerned as you and others. And as I say, we have a gathering to try to get a finalized plan of how to get this thing resolved as quickly and efficiently and get the software to perform the way it was presented that it should perform. Thank you for your question, though.
Sorry, yes.
Hi, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Wish you a Happy New Year. My name is Mike Zedek, Lot 113, Unit 48. I'm concerned about this $6 million loan. I don't know who's going to pay that, or a due's going to go up. And we've been losing money on the golf for a long time. I like the golf courses. I support them, but if it's draining our funds. The other concern I have is some of the rules don't seem to be being enforced, and I want to know who's in charge of enforcing them. Like there's dirt on the street on Harmony, been there for a month. We have a rule that we can't put dirt on the street, but yet that dirt is there. If you complain to the patrol, they don't do anything. There's a noise county ordinance of 80 decibels for leaf blowers and stuff. They don't enforce that. Our subdivision, or our unit 48, the landscapers come 2-3 times a week, wake up in the morning, and no one's enforcing the noise ordinance. So a suggestion would be to have each unit have 1 or 2 days where the landscapers could come and don't allow them. They're working for us. We own the property. We're the owners. So we tell them what to do. 2 strokes pollute more than 20 cars, and they blow dust in the air, which has spores in it that cause valley fever. So I'd like to see that addressed. I'd like to see the rules enforced. And I don't know who's in charge of doing that, but I've complained to the patrol. I've put it in writing, and that's no response.
Thank you, Mike.
Hi, I'm Karen Brooks, Unit 48, Lot 79. I'm also chair of the Unit Rep Council. And I just wanted to address the question you had earlier. I did work with Therese Butler last summer on the change to making it from Unit Committee to Unit Rep Council. And how Dan explained it is accurate. Basically, the impetus for it was that when the unit reps were first pulled together, there was a request for all communications from the board to go out through unit reps, and we found as the communication channels got more sophisticated and everything was in place, there was a lot of duplication, and in fact, some of our unit reps had made a commitment to their residents not to duplicate. So if something has come out with from out the board or in the newspaper, we don't have to do the same thing. So Therese had made the proposal that we keep the entity the same, we operate as if it's a committee, we're called a council, and it seems to be working fine. We haven't had any major issues on the unit rep side, and the request I would have for 2023 is to keep it working as is. I feel strongly we want to have a board liaison, so I was happy, Cheney, that Campbell, you stepped up for that. Other than that, I think it should just be working as is, even though we're a council and not a committee.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate you bringing all that up, because like I said earlier, I wasn't really as attuned. So thank you for coming up and sharing with us. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Ron Betchke, Unit 42, Lot 28, I think. First, a little history, just in response to the previous comments. The unit reps originally were not part of the HOA. The HOA incorporated them maybe 10 years after we created it. And I was actually the first president of the joint HOA1, HOA2 Unit Reps Committee. Anyway, that's not why I'm up here right now to chat about it. I want to raise the issue that I discussed earlier in terms of what are the parameters for the HOA to evaluate the Club Corp or invite contract and see how they're progressing.
Thanks, Ron. Any other questions?
Wait, Dan, John,
sorry.
wants to
Don, go ahead.
Do we want to provide answer? Yes, Ron, the question is a good one, a legitimate one. The contract with Club Life has several different points of measurement. The primary area of measurement is to help us reduce cost in a couple different manners. One is through utilizing their purchasing leverage that they are able to put together for equipment, materials, supplies, etc. Number two is trying to grow the revenue. One of the things that we have to look at in golf is how do we get more people to utilize the facilities, become golf playing members at some level, either annual passes or all the way down to pay as you play. The revenue side is being attacked with a marketing plan that they have put together, which identifies within our general area here, outside of Saddlebrook, people who are known to be avid golfers through either organizations like the Arizona Golf Association and things like that. Their marketing outreach has also changed some of the vehicles we use to market. Some of the advertising on radio, etc., I believe has been reduced or discontinued this month in I believe it was this month in Arizona Golf Magazine. There's a full-page ad on Mountain View and the Preserve, very professionally done, fits in well with the quality of the rest of the clubs that are promoted in that place. Purchasing leverage, comparing what we were able to get in 2022 on equipment that we had ordered, and we could only compare it to the manufacturer's retail or suggested retail price. But we got a very nice significant discount on most of the equipment that we purchased, including some materials on seed and sand and some other things. That would have totaled about $440,000 that will be spread out over time, since this equipment will most likely be leased versus purchased outright. Third part of it, they have worked with and are continuing to work with the Golf Committee in finalizing an outreach program to our own residents here. We have people move in here every year, buying homes, coming to live in the Saddlebrook community, and not a whole lot was being done to reach out to them and encourage them to take a look at golf if they weren't golfers. If they were golfers, get them to come visit our facilities, learn about our programs, etc. So that is being finalized. I would hope will be done fairly quickly. And when you consider that, I believe last year we turned over about 300 properties. If we get, 10% of that, that's a lot of revenue makeup in a hurry. So outreach to our new residents coming in here, marketing services to try to encourage more outside play. We have to have outside play because we're not getting enough of our own members who who are currently playing to cover the costs. The other thing in looking at last year, inflation hit us as bad as it hit anybody. You're talking the 15 to 20% plus on major items. And there isn't a whole lot you can do about that. You can get a discount off their new price, but you're still going to be paying a much higher price. So those are a few of the things that they are avidly doing. And the other services they provide is agronomy, to work with and be a resource to Paul and his staff on best practices for golf course maintenance in the Southwest. Design services, construction services. There's a variety of things that we can get from them as far as resources to help our staff do the best possible job to meet the goals that our golfing community has. Thank you.
I just want to quickly follow up. I understand all those things, and so my specific question is how you measure their progress. So when they tell you based upon numbers, so if in fact you look at how many annual members there are now, how many are you expecting to have? If in fact you look at how many outside rounds of golf are being played, how many are you expecting them to have? So I think there should be some benchmarks. That's all I'm suggesting is benchmarks.
There are a variety of those benchmarks. The chief benchmark is what is the year-over-year improvement in EBITDA.
Right. So
that's it.
So
that's number one.
So do you have a plan? Is there a plan in place when you look at those numbers? I don't know whether you look at them weekly, monthly, quarterly. If they're not,
we look at golf rounds monthly.
Okay.
And
so
expenses.
What do we do if the plan is not working? I mean, we had this discussion just now about the computer systems. And so we have a question about what do we do when the projected benefits are not being materialized. So, and that's all I'm asking for this board to establish some sort of criteria that they evaluate and can present as a reason that this contract should be is being fulfilled, if there are modifications that needed to be done. And I don't have a suggestion, specific suggestion on what to do. I don't know enough about golf things.
Ron, Dan, let me have this, please. Let me help you, sir. I agree with you 100%.
I'll sit down.
Okay, I agree with you 100%. This is why we have to get a strategic plan in place. We have to create organizational alignment here between this board, our staff, our committees, and you're right. We have to have performance measures that we make available to our homeowners. We're 100% in agreement. We're on the path to getting there, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Second round, the common area maintenance guys, I think they're doing a great job. I think we're missing one point, and it's the parasites in the trees. You don't have to drive off Saddlebrook more than a couple of 100 yards before you start seeing dead trees that have been consumed by the parasites. We need to, as a policy, because it's the same on the golf course. I walk the golf course and you can see it in the trees, and we'll lose whole trees over time. If we could take a more aggressive stance with that group, and I know we're hiring more, and I think they're doing a great job. I just think we need to point that out because they are trimming trees and leaving that in place when we should take advantage of doing it at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Cash. I appreciate that comment. Good comment.
Second question, Karen Brooks. I'm also on the board for the Saddlebrook Dog Park Association. And Mark, I guess the question is for you. As you go through the licensing agreements with the different clubs, I know the dog park is one of them. We license the land from you. Do you anticipate that all the dog park members are going to have to sign some kind of liability form?
No.
I guess what I'm waiting for is, the dog park was a little bit of an unknown. I mean, I'm waiting for our lawyer to kind of give his opinion on that. I mean, obviously there is a potential danger for a dog biting another person and somebody who's lawsuit crazy suing the HOA because it happened. Most of the license agreements have, in fact, I'm pretty sure the dog park was, because there's a template, has a liability protection waiver in it. Whether we have to have an individual sign a liability waiver, I think is a question for the dog park. There's some that are pretty obvious. The dog park's not quite so obvious, so I guess I can't answer that quite yet.
Okay,
So.
great, thanks.
Thank you. Hey, I apologize. One of the reasons for not having multiple topics is to allow everybody to be able to answer or ask a question at some point in time. And do you want to ask a question? Yeah, I apologize. I should have gotten you earlier. So come on in. Come on down.
My name's Gary Hull, and I'm not sure my wife was here, but I'd like to address the ALC. If we can have twice a year, have the common area behind your walls trimmed down. Some of my neighbors have had it. They asked for permission. They have to email it in. Just to make it twice a year, have the common area cut down so your rattlesnakes don't have a place to hide. I got gophers right next to my wall, tearing up the gravel, and nobody's come out to do anything to it. We also have trees planted there. Everybody pays for a view to have of the mountains, and they plant trees that block our view. And they're getting 10, 20 feet tall. That's one thing I like to issue. The other one is we're developing a pool. We've been in the process of that for about 6 to 7 weeks. Just like the other gentleman said, unfortunately, we had our backyard done, and my wife wanted a pool, so we put a pool in. And they tell us right up front, it takes 6 months to a year to put a pool in. Yet we have to get a permission after 10 weeks, or whatever the time length it is, to let them know that it's going to take longer. I think right now we're about 6 weeks into it. I'm guessing we may have 3 to 4 more weeks, and we could be done with it a long time sooner than what we were told. And then I'd like to make an issue, this will be brought up probably later, but our HOA dues are extremely too high. This year alone, it's gone up $430. Last year, it went up. The year before that went up almost $300. Why are the dues going up when you got all these homes that are being built and it just continues to rise? We got inflation out there that is killing all of us. But to raise our dues, $430 in 1 year, not counting everything else, is way out of line. In a total of 5 years that we've been here, it's gone up almost $16,000 in HOA fees and assessments. And I'd like to find out why it's going up so high.
Good comment. Thank you. I will tell you that, and we've told this before, obviously, we have multiple open homeowner meetings during the budget process. It's not done in a dark room. It's done out in the open. And we really welcome people to show up like yourself and see what's behind those numbers. We try to be as transparent as we possibly can. So my answer to you, rather than getting into specifics, would be to please show up, please come and ask questions and understand the budget process that takes place. I think we did as good as we could do this year, and it's still a tough year. We got hit with a lot of different things. So rather than debate that question, I'll just ask you to please show up and be a part of the process.
Well, we had, like to come to them, but we've had some serious medical problems, so we had to go to Phoenix to take care of a lot of these problems. I'm just asking, okay, you've got the 12 months program. Can we have the meeting set one day a week, one day a month, that we can set it aside and cancel appointments if we have to cancel them, so we can have 1 month to discuss things and come to them? Because we get a notice maybe 2 or 3 days before the meeting. Well, I'm in Phoenix, my wife's in Phoenix, we got our doctors up there. That's where we came from, Chandler, 22 years ago. We came here 5 years ago. So we need more time to be able to schedule things for us.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that. Yes. Another question? Sorry. Is there any other questions? Nope. Hey, thank you all for coming. Tell your friends. We have this every month. You can come and have fun every month. So thank you all.
All we need to do is give you that folder, right? And then